Chapter 132, To the place that marked my beginning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 26th day of the 4th month, 94th year of the War Demon calendar at Pochi Agency. Pochi and I woke up late. See, we'd gotten to bed quite late last night, which was to say, technically quite early today's morning. We had a reason for doing that, of course. We had planned to head to the place of my beginning today, and for that, we needed to adjust our sleep schedule. In any case, I had also created as much Pochibitan D as I could and kept them in the storeroom. From my calculations, it would be best to leave at around this hour if we were to teleport to Falltown and then walk to the dungeon. We'll probably be there early tomorrow morning, leaving us a good amount of time before monsters started being active. There would be exceptions, of course, but the point applied to the great majority of them. And that's where the adjustment comes into play. Considering that I couldn't sleep safely when I'm not in town, it was extremely important to get sleep when I still could. With my current level of knowledge, I still couldn't heal mental stress, after all. As for the deal with Billy, I hadn't been able to get any information in the little free time I'd had. Still, I'd already passed the story over to Irene and Gaston, just in case. I had also advanced the Magecraft tutoring ahead with Lena, Tifa, and Lala quite a bit, and had left an assortment of Magecraft-related documents for Lena to manage. Considering how little Warren and the Divine Messenger had told me, I'd never know what would happen over there, so I did as much for them as I could. With that, they would be able to get stronger through self-study, and they still could rely on Grandmaster Irene whenever they really needed to. Tarawo and Tifa, well, they were the same as ever. I would greatly prefer that they worked faster toward a decent relationship, but I suppose such things couldn't be rushed. During my free time, I'd also tried to teach some basic magic spells to Betty, but in no time at all, Lena ended up being the one to instruct her instead. I'd never known that Betty wanted to be able to use magic too. Perhaps she'd gotten a spark of inspiration from the brief time we'd partied up with Barn. So far, I'd told only Blazer and Bruce about the deal with the Resistance. At first, I'd intended to tell Gaston and Irene as well, but, since it had turned out that one of their fellow 6 archmages was in command, doing that might result in trouble down the line. I still plan to discuss this with them when the chance arises, but now wasn't the right time. Fuyu, immediately putting to use the teleportation spell I'd taught her, had come to visit us at Bylania on several occasions during the past few weeks. One thing I'd overlooked was that the formula I'd taught her had the spell circle in my room set as its destination, so that one time she'd popped up while I was getting changed, things were quite chaotic. Fuyu's beet-red face she'd made that time was a must-see, in a way. As one would expect, Betty was enraged by what had happened, but it did give me the chance to tell Natsu and Haruhana about the teleportation spell. This was especially important since I'd gotten to teach Natsu how to use it as well. Natsu and Fuyu still got along well, and since the latter had learned the telepathic call from Gaston, she'd been using it to keep in touch. As a byproduct of their uses of teleportation, a public connection was established between Bylania and Regalia, which gave the adventures of Bylania access to Lias and Don Kisaragi's weapon shop. Their wares turned out to be quite well liked. And, well, hats off to Itsuki for her idea to charge a toll each time the adventurers used the girls' teleportation setup to go there. It was said that girls were fast to mature, but seeing how everyone got so strong and reliable while I was away, I've got to thank people like Gaston and Blazer for the guidance they provided, too. Especially since, well, I'll be away again, this time for God knows how long. You sure? Don't need us to see you off over there? Yeah. We'll do the shopping before we leave, so it'll be fine. Without worry for the way forward, I answered Betty. Asley, give it your best shot out there. You got it, Natsu. I'll bring some good stuff back for you. Asley, get some seeds and saplings for me. Lala said quietly as she pulled on the edge of my mantle. Why yeah, if I can find any. I'm fine with gold, Sir Asley. A ton of gold. Ooh, I can't wait. Itsuki's breath grew heavy, excited by what she'd arbitrarily convinced herself of. I replied with a wry smile and an okay sign, to which she reacted in turn with a broad smile. Take good care of yourselves. Always the one to sound wise, this snake. Czar, please take care of everyone. You got it, man. Shut your trap, Bruce. Sir Asley was talking to us, not you. What was that? Hoo boy, they sure fight over everything. In a way, that showed how good they got along with each other, I suppose. So. Blazer, do me a favor and take those two in check, will you? I'm asking you, too, Sir Ryan. We need all the support we can get. Got it. Hope you don't face any issue over there. Safe journey, Sir Asley. Don't you dare die on me, man. How about you don't jinx it, Reed? Look, just take good care of your sisters back here. Humph, like you need to tell me. Mana, exasperated at how Reed crossed his arms and turned away, let out a dry laugh. Well, just come back with all 4 of your limbs intact. You too, Pochi. Trust me to take care of my master, Reed. Sir Asley, please be careful out there. Thanks, Adolph. You do your best, too. We fist bumped, albeit a little awkwardly on Adolph's part. Which reminds me, lately he'd had this sparkle in his eyes each time he'd talked with me. What's up with that? Before I could ponder it over, Pochi ran up and said as if to break me off from prolonged talk, well then, we'll be off. Oh, yeah. See you guys later. This business had started with a light-hearted enough tone, but ever since I'd passed along the divine messenger's story to them, everyone turned serious. The main reason was because of knowing the inevitable. Just that was enough to worry just about anyone. Pochi and I felt the same, of course. If it was an option, I wouldn't have left them now, what with there being so much work and trouble going around. That was why I resolved to come back as soon as we could. Once we were done shopping, we headed out of Bylania through the south gate. But before we could go far, one man stopped us in our path. He had a tiger-like monster with him. Wait, isn't that a murder tiger? Aren't you supposed to be in school, Hornell? You're asking that on purpose, aren't you? Student council members are permitted to leave university grounds during class time as long as it's for buying equipment for the university. You must have remembered that. What's there to buy at a gate? How'd you know that I'd be here? I don't know where the leak originated from, but it's common knowledge at this point. There have been talks of this girl at your agency. Itsuki, I think she's called, going around selling information. I have a feeling that she's gonna become a Miss Big Shot in the future. I was the one who sold that sweet info to Itsuki in the first place, though. And Pochi, well, I have a feeling that she had always been a Miss Big Shot in spirit. It seems that she only sells to those she trusts, of course. I heard the news from these guys, though. Hornell pointed diagonally behind him with his thumb, and I directed my line of sight there. Mitter stood there with hands on his hips and an encouraging grin on his face. Idea was there, too, her arms crossed pose with her elbows in her hands pushing her chest together. Anri and Clarice waved to me, the former quite energetically, the latter relatively lightly and with slightly downcast eyes. Huh, the equipment you're buying must be pretty big, huh? Of course. Even I need to ask for help sometimes. Hornell said, still sounding quite confident. The murder tiger, on the other hand, seems pretty ticked off. Looks like it's gonna bite Hornell's leg any second now. Oh, it just did. HNG dash. You all right there? D, don't worry. That's how tigers show affection, NGH dash. Dude, its fangs are really digging in. So, any idea when you will be back? Nope. But I'll try to get it done as soon as possible. I see. I would greatly prefer that Hornell stop pretending not to care, but I still felt inclined to humor him. Really, I can't even tell whether or not he's grown up. He did tone down his passive aggressiveness though, so there's that. Listen. I'll be joining the Royal Capital Magic Guardians. Yeah, Lena already told me. And you, what will you do? Well. I'll be a philosopher, or something. Not happening. Hey, too soon. If I had tea in my mouth, I would have done a spit take right on your face back there. You heard him, Master. I knew Hornell would know that you'd never make it. Oh, woe is me. Even my familiar doesn't have my back. Good God, my familiar and old classmate are such handfuls. And just look at Idea, she's clearly enjoying herself looking at this go down. Ignore them, Asley, ignore them. I heaved a sigh, grabbed Pochi by her tail, and then started walking away from the gate. In the end, all my friends behind me sent us off with words of encouragement. Starting to feel fuzzy inside, I squeezed my fists. Yoch. Whoops, I forgot that I still had Pochi's tail in one of my hands. You better be back soon. Never have I expected Hornell to say that. Even with Pochi jumping up to bite my head, I couldn't help but smile. I mean, I was able to tell that he's actually all grown up now. Since we needed to move fairly far away from Bylania before being able to safely use teleportation, Pochi got off my head and gigantified, then let me get on. But then Pochi didn't start running, and only pointed forward with her nose. I looked to where she pointed at, and saw that many familiar faces were standing on the outer side of the wall. Haruhana, carrying her Kozakura katana, reminded me once again of that time Betty lectured me. Tifa, holding the same model of the star rod as the one I used to have, she'd found it by chance at a pawn shop, and had bought it out of personal compatibility despite it technically being designed for boys. Irene leaned her back against the wall with her arms crossed, looking quite disgruntled. Here to round Hornell's team up, I'm sure. Lena, holding the blazing dragon staff, one of the two staves Gaston had entrusted me with, she had gotten that one because I'd chosen to keep the torrent dragon staff for myself. She's always been taking good care of it. They've all got things going on for themselves, yet they're here. I've never had such a joyous send-off. Never once in my long life. It's making me feel all fuzzy inside. I forced myself to look away, locking my gaze on the direction I intended to go. I did that only because it was hurting all the way up to my eyes. Pochi lowered her head and tried to put me down, but I stopped her. Seeming to have understood me, she only closed her eyes and raised her head up. I may be shedding tears of joy, but I don't want anyone to see me like this. Embarrassment was the major factor, but I also felt that if they saw me, then I wouldn't be able to move on. Without wiping my tears as they dripped off my chin, I raised my staff and shouted to those behind me, "We won't be gone for long." My voice, wrung out with my diaphragm so as to hide my shivering, served as a sign for Pochi to go ahead. Everyone shouted back to us, wishing for our safe return, each with their definitely not shivering voices. One among them, the classic archmage, made a sarcastic remark, but in the end said something actually serious to top our parting off. Man! I've never felt so blessed to be alive as I am now. Oh God, why? Just our luck, sir. So here we are, at the dungeon after heading south from Falltown. The S-ranked monster Beta Chimera had taken up residence in front of my old home, and it was, for reasons unknown, backed by the A-ranked Imperial Ogres and B-ranked Ogre fighters. Ah, yes, a full course of B, A, and S. Even though I'm rank S myself, this is still beyond my capabilities. How the hell did things end up like this? This wouldn't have happened if you did your scouting properly. I wouldn't have needed to do any scouting if you hadn't stopped for snacks. Oh, you know, I only ran for the short distance of all the way here because some damned fool would never stop crying. Because of that, I was just a little bit hungry. Well, thanks for your service. Good to know that you understand, you damned fool. That exchange occurred while I pinched Pochi's ears, and Pochi stuck her nails up my nose. Look, Pochi, just do the usual. You mean I'm baiting again? No, I mean fight all of them. Do your part, you damned fool. All right, then take the B and A ranks. Oh, the S, too. AWO, wait, isn't that still all of them? It's just the usual. Oh, for the love of, please get it done quickly. Pochi gigantified and ran on ahead. I'll never forget how brave she looks, or so I think for the umpteenth time, since I always would, thanks to Pochi's usual behavior overriding any and all dignified image I would momentarily have of her. It's over. Finally, and so Pochi and I collapsed onto the ground. It wasn't as tough as an SS rank enemy, but it still was difficult taking them by just the two of us. Yeah, not easy at all. Phew. All right, then, I pulled myself up and stood before the oh-so-nostalgic dungeon. Pochi sat up beside me, and together we locked our sights on the entrance of the cave. As if the action was expected, we turned to each other, and then back to the darkness of the way ahead. We took one step, then another, and another, until the entrance was within an arm's reach. We looked at each other again before taking a deep breath. Together, we shouted, "I live with death close by my side." For the third time, we turned to look at each other, laughed, and then stepped forward. Into the place that marked my beginning. Chapter 133, named by Pochi. Woaha. Pochi. Do something about them. You know that's impossible. I mean, it's a herd of grand centaurs. You know, rank S monsters. I'll die if I go in. You do it yourself. We were running like hell, with a herd of half-horse beast-man monsters behind us. Their technical name was Centauros, and it was said that their numbers have been decreasing consistently to the point of near extinction now, but here they are. They've got to be somewhere, I suppose. Don't be ridiculous. I'm the last line of defense. I just can't go fight on the front. So much for defense when you're running away like this. Shut up. Even 10 lives wouldn't be enough to take them. So, how much of them are there? You're asking me. I can't even turn around. Should be around 20, from what I've seen at first, though. And more importantly. What? Do you have any idea where we are? We were out on a grass-covered plain, and were being chased by a herd of grand centaurs. Pochi's voice echoed far and wide, but I sure as hell couldn't answer her now. We definitely had gone into the place that marked my beginning, our old home, the dungeon in which we'd lived for centuries. And as expected, we had encountered a great number of monsters, though none nearly as dangerous as the ones at the entrance. So, how did we pop up at a grassy plain, and what's the deal with these grand centaurs, when we were deep under the dungeon just a while ago? Oh, right, it probably happened when I'd entered the backmost room, the one I'd formerly used as a research lab. We're finally here. Yes, we've checked all the rooms except this one. I don't see monsters around anymore, so, wait, there's nothing here. What about that pile of garbage, sir? What Pochi was pointing at was what I'd left behind, untouched since we'd abandoned the place years ago. Outdated documents, old alchemical tools, those sorts of things. Better follow Pochi's advice and not ignore anything, even these useless stuff, I guess. Rise, whirlwind. I lifted up the whole pile with magic, revealing the earth underneath it. Nope, nothing. Could that have really been just a dream? No way. I mean, we both took part in it. Is it normally even possible for two people to share one? Yes, it is. We did a few times, actually. I guess stuff's gotta happen sometime, what with us having lived together for 800 years, dash. What's this? I can feel it, too. Magic invocation. What in the world is going on, sir? Pochi said, her ears twitching up. As usual for this kind of situation, we had our backs against each other's. I didn't feel anything coming at us from the room's entrance. In fact, the whole dungeon must be empty aside from me and Pochi by now. What I did feel, however, was the activation of a spell, but I still couldn't tell where it actually was. Without warning, the pressure of arcane energy closed in on us, sending cold sweat running down my back, and prompting Pochi to ready her fangs. An intense blast of sound blared through the whole room, no, the whole dungeon. Like a cracking, high-pitched scream, the sound threatened to rupture my eardrums. And it was gradually getting closer to us. A trap? No, there shouldn't be anything like that. I mean, we've checked every corner of every room. There isn't anything here, either. You must have overlooked something. Once a fool, always a fool. As if. Wadash. A spell circle suddenly appeared, as if parts of it had seeped out of the floors, walls, and ceiling, and then combined to form a whole. What the blazes? What's with this circle, sir? It's got so much data, I can't decode it. I mean, the letters are so small, yeah, I can't read it either. I don't even have enough arcane energy to start up something this detailed. What? If your energy isn't enough to use it, then who can? Hell if I know. But yeah, looks like this thing's a trap after all. See, I knew you'd overlooked something. You damned fool. Do you have any idea how big this circle is? It could cover the whole dungeon for all we know. No one would have noticed it if they didn't break open the walls. How does one even draw a spell circle inside a wall, anyway? Once Pochi finished her line, she realized what was up. And so did I. Who was the one who had led us here? The topic had been first brought up by Warren, yes, but the one who'd solidified my decision was Gramps. So, that Gramps, what did he claim to be? A divine messenger. Yes, that was it. So chances were, he was the one who'd set this up, or perhaps an existence above him, oh, God. Now it's invoking itself. Arcane energy gathered at a point, streaking forth from the spell circle and wrapping us in a sphere. Pochi. Master. Hand in, front paw, we screamed. Hit by a flash of light, so bright that I couldn't even see Pochi right in front of me, I lost consciousness. Did we lose them? Maybe, sir, when we'd come to, we were in the middle of some unknown grassland, and then, immediately after I successfully woke Pochi up, those monsters had come charging at us. We eventually got ourselves into a forest, and fortunately, it had rock formations for us to hide behind as we moved along, quietly and with suppressed breathing. But then, my body immediately cramped up. It was on reflex, without any deliberate reaction on my part. The roar instilled fear such that I thought my guts were being blown out. Pochi and I could only jump at each other, belittled by the pressure that assaulted us from the skies above. I couldn't even raise my face, only feebly rolled my eyeballs up in an attempt to see what was up there. Master, that, wow, it's breathtaking, we were witnessing an exceedingly strange phenomenon. Its gargantuan size, and the majestic figure of its flight, was sure to instill fear in all who looked upon it. If the grand centaurs were still here, they surely would run away with their tails between their legs. In fact, it was far stronger than an ogre king. It was an exceedingly dangerous monster, the golden-scaled serpentine dragon. Kiryu. Technically a variant of the heavenly beast Koryu, this monster was said to be the peak of rank SS power. But why did it look so bloody and full of wounds, descending like it was on the verge of death? The Kiryu landed, sending tremors through the earth. It looked briefly in our direction, seeming to have noticed us, but soon glared up at the sky instead. That was, the direction it had just descended from. Which could mean, no, this was definitely right, way over there, was someone who reduced the Kiryu to this state. I wish I could go get a real good look at them, but, our lives were still at stake. No way in hell we were staying around here just to satisfy my curiosity. I started to retreat, one step back at a time, and Pochi was already clinging to my back. Some familiar this stupid dog is, using her master as a human shield. Well, can't blame her for how scary this thing we're up against is, I suppose. I took another step, and then another. All right, looking good. Once the Kiryu's figure disappeared behind the tree, I instantly turned around and hightailed it out of there. I didn't even care about the direction I was going in, it was all survival instinct, running away until I was out of breath again. On the way, Pochi struck my buttocks, like she was directing a horse. I sure wished I could tell her to run by herself. Oh, I wish I had enough breath to spare for that. Ha ha ha, phew. Why the hell are the monsters around here so damn strong? You can say that again. All the monsters I've seen on the way here were all at least on rank A, sir. While catching my breath, I surveyed the location we'd ended up in. Good thing we're safe for now, but this cave feels off, it's not a nest or anything like that, right? In response to my remark of worry, Pochi sniffed around the area. No. I don't smell any monster, or even a beast. But what? As if to rush the conversation ahead, my answer instead came in the form of an imposing figure, approaching from deeper within the cave. That's a person. Who are you? They were probably what Pochi had tried to inform me of. Though the voice was androgynous, the feature of the person's silhouette was feminine. I knew I couldn't let my guard down just because of that, however. Practically hearing the extent of her battle experience echoing from her footsteps, I put myself on high alert, but then I felt another presence approaching from the cave entrance behind me. No, to be precise, that other someone was already behind me before I'd realized it. The one behind me pointed a blade at my throat, prompting Pochi to freeze up as well. It seemed that she hadn't noticed anything happening at all. I dropped my staff and raised both my hands, and Pochi followed suit. It seemed that they'd like to know who we are, and to ascertain whether or not we were a threat, so I wouldn't want to provoke them. The person behind me, while tapping the tip of his blade on me, whispered in my ear, "Answer the question." That sounded like a young man. But at any rate, I have to do as he said, or else he'll kill me. That much, I could tell. I am Shiro. And this is my master, Poer. Pochi's alias for me, which she'd come up with on the spur of the moment, I'm sure, was a name I'd heard before. Chapter 134, Where has Poer gone? Why'd she even use fake names, anyway? And this Poer name. I think I might have heard it from somewhere. Poer. Quite an unusual name. Whatever are you doing here? The cold steel tip pressed into the base of my neck. Ouch. I must have bled a bit there. Oops, no time to worry about that now. Truth is, we got lost on our way, ha ha ha, lost? Here. You expected me to believe that? Lilia, what do you say? Well, then, that's another name I recognize. And that just hammered down how bad of an idea it was to use Poer's name. Damn it. I sure hope that this woman doesn't share her race with the Lilia I know. Seems he wasn't lying, Giorno. Nope, better not. I could only see things getting worse and worse now. Giorno and Lilia, and me, posing as Poer. Ha 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 ha, they're all names I'd heard from kids' bedtime stories. It doesn't seem like Pochi has realized the direction we were going in. She probably hadn't even thought things through at all when she brought up the names. And just look at her, it was like she was asking me whether her genius plan had turned things around. Man, I sure would love to break myself out of this situation right about now. And pinch that triumphant look right off her face. And stretch her cheeks wide. All right, if you say so. Now, you, step away from your staff, put your hands on the back of your head, and sit down on your knees. Like this? I did as I was told, and Pochi followed suit. The sword was no longer touching me now, but that didn't mean it wasn't still pointing at me. Giorno circled around to our front, revealing his appearance as a blond, well-groomed young human male. Ah, what a close resemblance to the descriptions I'd read. And Lilia, who'd been hidden in the shadows, was now standing beside Giorno. Wait, seriously? I muttered with a voice so low that only I myself could hear. Almost breathless, but it seemed that Pochi had noticed me, what with her having good ears. Pochi was surprised, too. One of the people in front of us was a dark elf, no, straight up an elf. One with a face I recognized, at that. She did seem a little younger, though, at least from my memory. I'll remember to double-check that later. Now, the main question is: where have we gotten ourselves to? You said you were lost. Where were you headed to? Relying on Shiro in this situation could be the death of us too, so I suppose I'll have to try and wing this myself. If my guess is correct, well, I can't think of anything other than that, anyway, so, right, should be around here. We're currently on our way to Tude. Huh. Before Giorno and Lilia could even say anything, my oh-so-competent familiar, Shiro, questioned what I'd said. Please, for the love of God, keep your thoughts to yourself. As much as I'd like to shoot a telepathic call to Pochi and explain why, it surely wouldn't be good to do so now. Who knows how it could mess up the situation. For the time being, I'll have to prioritize getting us free from here. Tude, isn't that a town to the far northeast of here? It is. We're headed to Brunnera, so it's a long way off from our destination, too. Poer, was it? Tell me, where do you hail from? Giorno asked while combing up his bangs. Damn it, would you look at that handsome little gentleman? Reminds me of a certain someone I'd heard of that was supposedly super popular with the girls. And his age, a bit older than Adolf, I suppose, didn't look quite 20, but pretty close. Now then, what answer should I give? Not that I had any viable choice in the first place. We have to get out of here. Whatever it takes to get out of here. We're from Tude, actually. Really now? What were you doing out here in the frontier, then? NGH, he seems quite used to interrogating people, despite his age. I'm not seeing any easy way through this. We've heard that there were sightings of rare monsters. Oh, I think we really should run away from this area. We just saw a powerful-looking golden dragon monster nearby. It was wounded, but still, oh, the dragon. I was the one who killed it. It was you. There's absurd, and then there's this guy, soloing one of the strongest rank SS monsters. Ugh, it's just one surprise after another today. If possible, I'd like to loot any remaining materials off the Kiryu, too. Gotta get away from here, then find my way back there. Say, Master, why are we going to Tude, again? Good God, this dog just can't ever keep her mouth shut. I'll tell you later. When exactly? When we get out of whatever we're in now. I knew it. You're lying. Why would you do that? Aren't you supposed to be honest and get them to trust you? Excuse me, shut up. Integrity ain't gonna keep us alive, you idiot. It's the one who calls others idiot who's the idiot, you damned fool. Attention, you two you know what? I'm always having such a hard time because you keep running your damn useless mouth, stupid dog. What? Didn't you used to say that there's a reasonable cause for everything? Stop whining and listen to them, damn it. I totally meant what I said. If you hadn't insisted that you needed to go investigate your old cave, none of this would have happened. You're saying that now. Besides, shouldn't we shut up and hear what this lady has to say? Ah, apologies for the interruption, miss. Please, go on. Seriously, arguing between yourselves with Giorno's blade against your faces? You both are not right in your minds, I say. Now listen up. I am Lilia. I can see through your lies quite easily. You will not hide anything from me. Have I made myself clear? Pochi turned to look at them, while I glared at Pochi and nodded. Come to think of it, there used to be this ability called the mind's eye among the elves. Lilia seemed to possess it as well, though apparently different from what Tus had. It's quite rare to see a master and his familiar quarrel between each other in this day and age. Not to mention, it's been a while since I last saw Lilia having trouble reading someone. Oh, I'm called Giorno, by the way. Since I'm sure now that you two don't pose a threat, and not a spy or an apostle, do feel free to stand. Pochi had a strong reaction. Should I be worried about that? Apostle, what's that? You don't know, was that supposed to be a joke? Giorno turned to ask Lilia. It seemed that he was confirming with her whether or not Pochi was lying. But of course, she was in fact telling the truth, so Lilia responded by shaking her head. Haha, now this is a surprise. Listen well, Shiro, it is a known fact that exceedingly high-ranking monsters are able to take on a human form. To see through their transformation, one must possess the mind's eye, like Lilia here. And Poer, judging from the look on your face, it seems that you are completely aware. Have you neglected to inform your familiar of this? Sorry for the trouble. I'm still in the process of teaching her various things, so, a recent contract, then. Perhaps I should have expected that. Pochi froze up, seemingly in the middle of sorting her thoughts. Humph, took her long enough to realize. Giorno, Lilia, Poer, elves, apostles, mind's eye, Kiryu, and a human man who could kill one so easily, and a large herd of the supposedly near-extinct Grand Centaur. It would be strange for one not to realize what was up when presented with such information. Now Pochi turned at me with a horrified look in her eyes. That's right, it's exactly as she thought. Now I'm certain. Those of the Devil King's army have been lurking among the populace, you see. We weren't about to take any chances. Name, Giorno titles, Iron Heart, Wine Deity, The Strong, Sword Saint, Dragon Slayer, Holy Warrior Candidate LV, 201 HP, 50,431 MP, 39,882 EXP, 451,938,512 Special Skills, Support Magic, Advanced, Recovery Magic, Advanced. Fortify Strength, Fortify Resilience, Fortify Mind, Blinding Speed, Flight, High Frequency Blade, Earth Splitter, Flash, Thrust, Brave Blade. This place we've been brought to. We'll be departing shortly. Would you like to follow us to a nearby town? Name, Lilia titles, Iron Heart, The Swift, Diamond Senses, Sword Deity, Dragon Slayer, Holy Warrior Candidate LV, 200 HP, 69,210 MP, 18,741 EXP, 430,217,281 Special Skills. Fortify Strength, Fortify Resilience, Fortify Mind, Tempest, Light Body, Earth Splitter, Smash / Aerial Dancer, Smiting Flash. It was in the distant past. Way back in the era of the three holy warriors. Please, for the love of God, real Poer, please come join them soon. Chapter 135, Countless Paths, 11 o'clock in the morning, second day of the 5th month, 94th year of the War Demon calendar. A lone mouse trudged along the desolate path, wiggling its long, slender tail. Following it was an elderly man, walking along casually despite his age. With all due respect, master, the area ahead isn't habitable by humans. Are you sure we have the right place? The mouse said as it scratched its face with its nails. Due to the high atmospheric temperature, the mouse's vision blurred as it stared into the distance. Not human is the key part here. The man replied while looking up at the blazing sunshine. Although he himself wasn't showing any sign of fatigue, the scorching earth at his feet was absorbing up all the sweat that dripped from his chin. I see, we will be meeting up with a non-human creature, then. I don't even know if I'll get to meet him physically, to be honest. Oh ho, it's quite rare to see you be unsure, master. The mouse turned its head around to remark so, which prompted the man to point at the way ahead. Konoha, stop. Before its master's warning reached its ears, the mouse, Konoha, was walking on air. For a step, and not a single step more. It let out a squeak and grabbed onto the finger of its master, Gaston, that had reached out for it. Good grief. How many times has it been now? You're better off behaving yourself and sit on my shoulder, I say. I can't possibly let myself detect threats slower than my master in a danger zone such as this, can I? Besides, are we not almost there now? Right, we should be. Gaston stopped to take in the dry breeze and look around. Then he noticed something at the end of the path they were taking. He focused his eyes, concentrating on that point, and detected a wave of arcane energy slipping through the wind. Gaston groaned up his nose and then picked up Konoha, who attempted to walk ahead again, and placed it on his head instead. Humph, there it is. He had his eyes on the location Asley and Pochi once trained at, and also the place Irene had departed from just recently. A desolate land of nothing but dust, sandstorms, and air of dense arcane energy, the Far East wasteland. With Asley's letter of recommendation in hand, Gaston stepped forward on his path once more, together with Konoha. Meanwhile at the Magic University in the Maginasium, Irene the Invincible Sprout, looking as if she'd busted a vein, was staring at Tifa, a much younger girl with just about the same height. Tifa had completed the training task of the day without difficulty, and Irene was not so petty as to be enraged at one who had fully fulfilled her conditions. She had a reason for this, and that lied in the way the former had gone about doing it. The task was the same as the one Asley had taken years ago, eliminating Irene's fire spell from the Maginasium's vicinity. The only difference was that a restriction had been added indirectly, with the final instruction being to use what one has learned from the Magic University to solve the problem. Tifa's freshman classmates had raised quite an uproar in response to her having used Magecraft to complete the assignment without even batting an eye. That was because, at any rate, she had not followed the instruction, and that the supposedly lost art of Magecraft was being used willy-nilly right in front of them. Irene had introduced the restriction out of fear of that happening, as a matter of fact, but Tifa had not read through the implications of it at all. I wouldn't consider this a proper completion of the task, Tifa. Did you not listen to what I said? I've met up with Lena and Sir Asley to further train my Magecraft with them after the school year has started. That should have fulfilled your criteria, Professor. Tifa argued back without much actual care in the situation itself, prompting Irene's veins to swell up even more. The former had been largely avoided by her classmates over the past month. One reason was the attitude she had toward Irene, one of the 6 archmages, and another, most prevalent one being the cold stare in her eyes. Which was why, in angering Irene with her reaction, this incident has served to further deepen the gulf between her and the other students. Teruo, who has been sitting beside his master this whole time, stood up after having sufficiently observed the whole situation. To the whole class here, he was quite an unpredictable familiar, so they thought perhaps he could mediate the argument. What he actually did, however, was beyond their expectation. He walked away to sit in a corner of the Maginasium. Yes, what Teruo had chosen to do was not an attempt at peace, but an evacuation. Seriously, she's such a hopeless student, whipping out Magecraft in front of such a large unaware crowd. She definitely has some screws loose in her head. Irene face-bombed out of sheer exasperation, but Tifa's face suggested that she still has not reconsidered her actions. Thanks in part to Trace happening to pass by the Maginasium, the interrupted training task resumed, but in the end, the class performance rating that day was dismal through and through. It was primarily due to Irene's fluctuating release of arcane energy throwing off everyone's concentration. After the session was over, just like Asley had been years ago, Tifa was summoned to Irene's office. There, Tifa hardly paid any attention to Irene, to the stern archmage ready to lay down a lecture. Rather, she was gazing out the window and up at the sky. What were you trying to achieve? I know you're smart, so why would you go out of your way to make others perceive you negatively? Nothing, Tifa replied bluntly, with her mouth narrowing down. Be reasonable, Irene. I dare say, Tifa was trying. Shut up. Yes, ma'am. Teruo, cut off in an instant, promptly shut his mouth. The silence lingered a while. Irene, deciding that she wouldn't get any answers out of her student at this rate, scratched her head and heaved a sigh. I'll get off your case if, and only if, you have a good reason. But let me give you a piece of advice, doing things this way will make you more enemies than you have to have. Try to remember that, at least. I know. If you say so. Irene shifted her gaze to the door, implying that she now wanted Tifa to leave. Tifa walked off without a moment's hesitation, then Taro stood up on his hinds and followed. The latter was probably trying to still keep his mouth shut with his front paws. Once the door closed, Irene looked up at the sky like Tifa had just done. Ugh, she's so much more of a handful than that guy. The look in Irene's eyes softened down, as if she was imagining a certain someone's face up there. But then she came back to her senses soon enough, shaking her head and recomposing herself. Bah! Irene, crossing her arms again, dropped herself on her chair, the same tall one on which her feet couldn't reach the floor. Tifa and Taro, now back in the classroom, walked up the stairs and headed for their seats. All the while, they received cold stares from the people around them, yet they were no match for Tifa's aura, what with no one daring to actually look her in the eyes. Once she was at her seat, Tifa was prompted to stop. Her gaze locked on to her chair. Taro, noticing that, finally took his front paws away from his mouth. Tifa, isn't that an ignition-type spell circle on your seat? Right. Getting back a cold, uncaring response, Taro turned to Tifa. Wouldn't you get another lecture if you don't deal away with it somehow? No problem. Oh, you've already learned the appropriate method of deactivation. Let's see it, then. I shall bear witness to your display of skill. Once again, Tifa stared coldly at her pretentious familiar. The dog, and also the whole classroom, was briefly startled. Here. Having not heard his master's whole statement, Taro moved his ear closer. Sit down here. Come again. Doubting what his master had just said, he asked for another repeat. Don't worry. The formula is so trash that I can't even feel its energy. And I'm good at recovery magic. Now, go on. No, this isn't, Tifa continued, unconcerned with her familiar's utmost hesitation. Will you do it? Or will you not? Taro chooses his life above all else. Taro chose the only option that would leave him alive. Afterward, Tifa would no longer be subject to bullying, directly or otherwise. The reason was that she had taken a different approach from her old mentor to deal with her hindrances, and also. Why? What did I do to deserve this? Wait, no. The heat. Her classmates were undoubtedly pained to see her familiar, Taro, be subject to such miserable treatment. Chapter 136, Close Combat. What is wrong with this place? Pochi and I were running around, escaping at full speed for our lives. Ora. Bug off. Gyo. Once the fight started, Lilia's beautiful face instantly turned into that of a barbaric warrior. Now the image of the dignified holy warrior is totally ruined. She tore off the wings of the inferno bug, an S-ranked blazing purple giant moth monster, laughing gleefully the whole time. Damn it, how the hell does she have so much power with those slender arms? Haha. What a swing, Lilia. See if I can do you one better. Earth Splitter. We were being targeted by this rank SS monster called Mother. Absolutely a dangerous thing, this one, with its fluctuating red liquid-like body dissolving things on touch, and while its movement was slow, its endurance was off the charts, being able to absorb a great deal of both physical and magical attacks. But then, this young blonde gentleman, Giorno, just totaled it with the most powerful Earth Splitter I've ever seen, in fact, that didn't even look like the Earth Splitter I knew at all. The version of Earth Splitter I knew essentially involved sending a blast running through the ground, cracking the surface and dealing damage to enemies as it went along. An S-ranked adventurer could achieve as much as 20 meters, making it a generally reliable ranged attack for warriors. However, that simple description didn't apply at all to the one that had been unleashed behind Pochi and me. The earth rose in a waving formation as if it was dancing, broke apart, and dragged the mother underground. And the light, it must be at least 100 meters. Same thing I'd said about him when he'd fought the Kiryu, there's absurd, then there's this guy. Even a mother is a minor bump on the road for him. Pochi and I looked on as the mother faded from sight, as if it was being eaten up by the earth itself. Are those two, even human? Pochi ran after the two who were fighting off in the distance. Hi-aha. Guts. Blood. Destruction. I'll remember to stay away from Lilia as much as I can while she's in combat. 1, 2, 3. And 4. Heads up, Lilia. Another mook your way. Isn't the thing he called a mook supposed to be the A-ranked Alpha Chimera? That sounded strange coming from you, you know, being a beast and all. I finally got something to reply to Pochi with. I can't even see the bottom of the pit, now this, doggo, this is how valleys and mountains are made. Hell if it is, sir. Seriously. I don't know what's going on anymore. We're in the past. The past. Boom, time travel. I already know that. Yeah, seconds ago. No way. I could tell right when we were teleported. Yes. Ugh, if you did, you probably wouldn't have used Poer as my fake name. Damn it. Pochi tilted her head in confusion to my grumbles of complaint. I'd kept my voice down, especially at the fake name part, but yeah, it looked like she was still clueless as ever. Just think about it. Those two, Giorno and Lilia, are probably the holy warriors. In the fairy tales we all know so well, they have another member, you do know that, right? If I remember correctly, the end of the story went. So ended the journey of Giorno the hero, Lilia the warrior, and Poer the mage. Though no one knew where they went, all hailed them as the holy warriors, right? Who's the mage? Poer. And what did you just call me? Master. I know. Listen, Shiro, I'm asking what fake name you called me with. Poer. Right, of course it is. Now then, I better plug my ears, just in case. No way. Master, you're the one dash. No way. I'm gonna tell Giorno real quick that it's a fake name, so dash, what are you saying, sir? Isn't this your chance to see all those absurd powers up close? Besides, the time we're in now should be around a decade before you were born. The ancient magecraft of limit breakthrough must still be around. Well, you've got a point there, yeah, that was actually a reasonable statement, for once. Ahahaha. Curse the powerlessness of your own self. Nay, be glad that death has come to you before the end of the word does. Ha 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 ha. With how much of them there are, it will be difficult for us to limit collateral damage. Bah, what a drag. Seriously. I swear, we don't have enough lives to stick close to them. Remember how much of a hard time we had with an Alpha Chimera? She's tearing it apart with her bare hands. But you did kill one with your dynamites. Just think about it. The fundamental structure of their bodies must be totally different. Zeus is strong, sure, but just look at them, they're absurd. That's definitely because they were born with holy warriors' powers. You can't be so sure, sir. I mean, we haven't even seen Zeus' full power yet. Anyway, we've got to get to a town. We'll break away from them there. Until then, we'll have to work together to dash, Poer, fend for yourself. Adamantidal heading your way. Gah, what in the blazes? Why do they never stop coming? Rise, arise, all up, count 2 and remote control. Shiro, do the usual. Woo. This Adamanturtle was an S-ranked monster, another one that was already extinct by the time I went out of my cave. 2,000 years before I did so, at least from what I'd heard. Yeah, as much as I'd like to deny it. We definitely time traveled. Rise, dispel. If I remembered right, the Adamanturtles got a passive shield that granted it increased resistance to physical attacks. Dispelling that effect was logically the first thing to do. Ha! Look at that, Lilia. Poer's pretty good at this, isn't he? His moves are sloppy, but still. Humph. Good. If he can hold their own against a mook, then he won't hinder our progress. Hello. Weren't you the one who'd asked us if we'd like to follow you? She'll probably pipe down after the fight is over, so there's that. Anyway, how did the spacetime transmission trap spell formula get triggered, anyway? Thinking back now, it was in fact quite similar to the spacetime transmission spell I tried to invent a long time ago, too. But then, how did it get supplied with all the arcane energy? From my calculations, it would need to be fed 3 to 5 times of my whole arcane energy stock in an instant. Did God do that? No, I don't think he's been getting enough faith to be that powerful. Wait, could it be? We have been praying to him. All of us at the Pochi agency. Before every meal, without fail. All that might have accumulated to provide him with enough power over the years. That would be a plausible explanation for us two getting thrown over to this era. Shiro, we gotta hit the plastron. Lift that thing up. Yes. Sir. I see it. Pochi gigantified and rammed it, exposing its plastron and allowing me to lock on. Now. Pochi pad bomb. What on earth is that? That was a toned-down version of the Pochi pad breath, which I hadn't even introduced to Pochi yet. It was an original spell of mine that involved creating a paw-shaped blast of water, shooting it, and then triggering it to explode on contact. It may not be as powerful as the Pochi pad breath, but that was what made it usable in a wider range of situations. The Adamanturtle, taking the blast on its plastron, was sent slamming onto a rock wall, its back shell being shattered as a result. Air claw. Pochi dealt the finishing blow. The Adamanturtle, after a muffled groan in the distance, fell silent. Once the melee neared its end, with the two absurd heroes dealing with the last of the monsters, Pochi started to scold me for some reason. What was up with that spell, sir? It's something I came up with pretty recently. Anyone can see that. I mean the name. Can't you make it sound cuter? That's what you're taking issue with? Such as? Let's see, how about Pochi Pretty Beautifully Excellency? You sure love praising yourself, huh? I'll have to work up the courage to shout that whole thing during combat to invoke the swift magic, you know. Oh, please don't sweat that part. Just give it some consideration, alright? It looks like she's quite happy to have her name attached to a magic spell, at least. I mean, she's wagging her tail about as much as when she sees her favorite foods. Yeah, sure thing. Oh, looks like they're done. Seeing those two cleaning their blades, I tried to wrap up our conversation. Listen, Pochi. What is it, sir? Be careful about saying our names from now on. I'm Poer, you're Shiro. Got it? You're the only one who should be worried, Master. I mean, I've never called you anything other than Master, anyway. That's usually the case, yeah, but is she forgetting how she would call me by name when she talked about serious stuff once in a blue moon? Whoops, looks like Giorno and Lilia are back. This area has been cleared out now, so I say we hurry on ahead. I'd like us to reach Sodom within tomorrow. All right. Yes, sir. Poer. Why yes. What is it, Lilia? Seems like she's already back to acting normal, but I think I might be having difficulties dealing with this woman in general. You are so weak. That was, I would say, the biggest issue we were facing within this world. If we were left to fend for our own here, we'd probably be dead in a day, no, an hour, even. Ah, yes, the world of legendary fairy tales. Chapter 137, Sodom. So, regarding our general location. We had appeared in the general vicinity of the dungeon, a little way off from where Falltown's south entrance would be. Although we had been blasted back 5,000 years, the landscape, especially the mountain range, was somewhat familiar. If we head north from here, we could get ourselves to the location that would later become Falltown. Now I wonder, could that be the location of the Sodom place that Giorno had mentioned? I've long forgotten most of the locations from this era, too. I had brought up Tude when I'd lied to Giorno just because I knew that it existed in this era. I must say, it was fortunate for us that Lilia hadn't pressed the matter further back then. So, this Lilia lady, ever since she'd told me that I was so weak, she'd been walking in front of me, without turning around to look at any of us for a second. And to my side was the supposed hero, Giorno, yawning as we carelessly strutted along. Which reminds me, when I'd looked at them with the appraisal glasses, I'd managed to see their whole statistic sheets. Over the past month, I'd been working to upgrade the glasses' capabilities, and had planned to test it on Tus first. It seemed to have worked out well, though, so that was totally worth it. Well, actually, at first I'd thought it was broken because of how broken the numbers were, but when I saw those two in action, I knew for sure that it was no error. Another point of interest was that, at the present, those two were Holy Warrior candidates. I wonder what's up with that. Does that imply the existence of other candidates that could take their place? Say, Poer. It's quite surprising to see a human like you use magic in battle, especially in this day and age. You think so? Haha. Considering how much information one needs to process in order to use magic, I've always thought it would be better left to the elves, what with their naturally long lifespan allowing them to better cultivate their knowledge. You must have studied a great deal, seeing how you were able to process so much information during the battle back there. Right, the elves do have an approximate lifespan of 2,000 to 3,000 years. That would indeed make them a better fit for handling magic, even though the art of magic itself was humanity's invention. Also, the elves in this era, they have yet to be labeled as dark elves, just as I thought. According to Tus, they should already be called that by this time, though, had he gotten his facts wrong? I'm half in doubt about this, but it would also be better to assume that magecraft isn't a thing yet in this time period. Well, at our skill level, I probably would need to rely on it to survive, but would it be safe to use it in front of those two? There it is. Sodom. As Lilia looked into the distance, I peeked over her shoulder and focused my eyes to get a visual of it as well. After a whole day of walking, running, and fighting, we were finally here. But this place is, well. I did see this coming, but still. Master, isn't that, yeah, the location is just too good to not build a town at, huh? Its structure and people were completely different, but it was indeed located exactly where Falltown would be. Well well, the place is looking dreary as ever. Not that I care. Besides, we can't play Poer's bodyguards forever, so let's hurry and get ourselves over there. Aye, ma'am. This holy warrior candidates bantered, one acting strictly, the other one not much so. I couldn't do anything but smile along. Same case for Pochi, I'm sure. The fact that Giorno didn't deny Lilia's statement implied that he was in agreement with her, too. Damn it, I've got to increase my powers as much as possible while I'm here. There must be a reason that we got sent back to the past. Yes, no doubt about it. Not that I didn't want to go back, but while I'm searching for a way to do that, I might as well train myself up, too. Get stronger here, then bring the solution to our new powers back to the future. That's what I think I'm supposed to do, at least. He, master. Playing your bodyguards, she said. That really cracked me up. Oh. Isn't this supposed to be the part where she's in agreement with me? We thanked those two, then thanked them again, and then thanked them some more before finally parting from them at the entrance to Sodom. Although Pochi had suggested that we went together with them, we had our reasons not to. Sure, it might have been better to stick close to them, but we'd need to be as strong as them to actually consider that. After all, if we hindered them in any way, history might be changed. That's why we must go back to our basics. Then again, with there being so many powerful monsters around, is the town's security forces even doing all right? That was what I had in mind at first, but it turned out I was wrong to worry. Through my appraisal glasses, I could see that the people stationed at the gates, men and women, were level 180 on average. They were on a whole different world from us. I don't know if they're a group of ridiculously powerful people, or if these kinds of numbers are the norm for this day and age, but I reckon I'll find that out soon enough. Pochi and I headed to the Adventurers Guild of this era. Its building was technically old, but still looked fresh. That's right, I'll go in and ascertain myself of the abilities of this era's adventurers. Heh heh heh, how clever of me, if I say so myself. This scary man seems to be the receptionist. As soon as I made my first step inside, I was welcomed at the same instant with conspicuous wrinkles and a burst of murderous intent. Now that was something I'd probably never experienced before. Who the hell are you? New face round here. I'm Poer, a mage. I'm here to sign up as an adventurer. Once I introduced myself, the man answered with a long, scrutinizing glare. He's scanning from the bottom of my feet to the top of my head, kinda creepy. He turned away from me and instead focused on Pochi, then did the same thing. Pochi puffed up with pride, seemingly happy that she was being looked at. So now she likes to be the center of attention, huh? What's her name? She's Shiro. So you signed the contract with this animal, in this time and place. Strange dude. Do you really have what it takes to be an adventurer? In other words, he was asking why I hadn't formed a contract with a monster or a more powerful beast instead. The stereotypical type to judge a familiar's capabilities by their archetype, I see. Pochi seemed ticked off for a bit there, but didn't make a fuss about it. After all, this was a regular occurrence, in a way. There will still be those who discriminate against familiars in our original time, too. Pochi understood that well, and had come to terms with it. Bah, pain in the ass. Anyway, put your hand on that. The man signaled with his chin, prompting me to look where he pointed. In front of the counter, there was a small source of powerful arcane energy, a spell circle. Wait, no, isn't this? Hurry it up. I'm a busy man. Seeing that he wanted to get things over with, I proceeded to do as told. There wasn't anything like this in the future. Some kind of special ritual, perhaps. Suddenly, my body radiated a golden aura, which then swirled off slowly, wrapping around me. The man, seeing that, told Pochi to follow suit, and so she did. Golden auras wrapped our bodies. What could this be? The man, seeming to be waiting for something, tapped his fingers on the counter. Eventually, the aura around me dispersed. And at the same time, a certain sound chimed in my head. Huh, what's this? No way. This is a level up. You from the sticks or what, huh, Poer? First time going up a level. Everyone and their mommy use this thing to level up, you should know that. Well, I thought it was supposed to just happen when I kill a monster, so, yeah, that only works up to 100. Any higher than that, and you need to touch a limit breakthrough craft circle to get your level to show. What? This is the limit breakthrough craft circle. How is it here? I was busy being surprised, but then another voice snapped me out. It was Pochi, standing beside me, her aura dispersing. Master. The level up fanfare in my head. Make it stop. What's going on? Hey, you can't just be surprised by everything. The receptionist man shrugged his shoulders as if to express his exasperation, and then proceeded to explain, "You've been killing a lot of enemies ever since you got to level 100, right? This isn't anything unusual." "Oh, right. Pochi has been stuck at level 100 for a long time now." From the implications of what the guy had said, now that the cap was released, all her accumulated EXP must have been factored in at once. "How'd you two even survive out here at the front lines at just level 100, anyway?" Front lines? Lemme guess, you just got up to level 101, huh? Can't believe you're here so early. You sure you have a skill to keep yourself alive? Ha 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 ha. Oh, it stopped now, and it looks like you've been working her so damn hard, newbie. Try not to get killed in your sleep. Ha 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 ha. The receptionist man let out a hearty laugh, prompting the others in the guild to assault my ears with laughter as well. But that didn't matter. Things that did matter were: 1. Magecraft already existed in this time period. 2. The limit breakthrough magecraft was a fixed position type in the form of an ultra-small craft circle, created by means yet unknown to me. 3. We have, Master, what's my level right now? I must have heard that fanfare in my head repeat about 30 times now. Name, Pochi titles, Advanced Familiar, the Powerful, Wolf Saint, Watch Wolf, Mage, One who requires earplugs, Godparent, Sweet Tooth, the One raised by the Fool, the Swift, the Strong LV, 132 HP, 5611 MP, 1498 EXP, 29,816,310 Special Skills, Breath Attack, Zenith, Air Claw Gigantification Tempest Fortify Strength Light Body Fortify Resilience Attack Magic, Elementary, Recovery Magic, Intermediate, Support Magic, Elementary, it's 132. Name, Asley titles, The Eternal Fool, The Polarizing, Hermit Candidate, Great Mage, Advanced Alchemist, Staff Master, 6 Archmages, Tentative, Honored Teacher, Rank S, Top Student, Papa, No Guts, SS Slayer, Guardian Mage, Tentative, The Strong, The Swift, Below Familiar LV, 101 HP, 3129 MP, 35,277 EXP, 10,988,401 Special Skills, Attack Magic, Skilled, Support Magic, Skilled, Recovery Magic, Skilled, Purification, Skilled, Fortify Strength Fortify Resilience Tempest Light Body. We have been in this era for a mere 2 days. 2 days. And we've already found the limit breakthrough craft that we've been searching so hard for. Chapter 138, Masaki and Randolph. Ahem. 132. 132, Master. Yeah, good for you. And what's your level, I feel I must do something about this grinning familiar at my side, but I have so many other things I must think about right now. Having asked the receptionist guy for a detailed explanation of overleveling, it seemed that one's accumulated EXP won't be released until one hovers their hand over the craft circle. What that meant for us was that, unless we somehow acquired that circle's formula for ourselves, there would yet be no point in returning to our present time. With that said, I'm not seeing any way for us to reveal that secret right now, nor do I think the people of this adventurers guild would be willing to teach us. All this new information also brought me to another mystery. Namely, the whole deal with Tus. His level was 274, or so he claimed. That's a bit too low for someone who's 5,000 years old, but then again, he's a total hermit. Well, not that I'm one to talk. He seemed to be at that wasteland the whole time, too, so he probably wasn't in that much of a hurry to level up. From our discovery here, it's entirely possible that the limit breakthrough he was talking about and the limit breakthrough magecraft of this era were versions of the same idea. I'd like to uncover the secrets behind both of them, if possible. 101. Who are you calling 101? 132 has been wondering, 101. What are we even doing around here? So here we were, suddenly in an unfamiliar place, suddenly with new identities. Sitting in front of the Adventurers Guild, me with my knees in my arms, we were facing a roadblock of the greatest difficulty. And that was, hey, I would have gone somewhere else if I could. But we don't have any gold, so yeah, can't we just go earn some? If only. From what I've heard, this town is in the front lines of the war against the Devil King's army. And if we're gonna head to another town, we'll need to hire us some bodyguards. That's true, but, yeah, no money. Be it love or friendship or anything else, they all need money to go around. Damn it, at least I'll write that down in the Principles of a Philosopher. As I took out my pen and the book from my purse, I felt a light knock on the back of my head. Ow, hey, what gives? Take a seat. What? Take a seat over there, master. Well then, it seems that Pochi is angry about something. It'd be wise not to oppose her at times like this. If things get too far, then she might even stop talking to me for a whole year, like that one time in my past. So I did as I'd been told, sitting down on my knees, on the ground. My knees are kinda hurting here, Shiro. Bear with it. Okay, so, what is it? Listen up, master. We may be adventurers, but when there isn't a quest that we can take, we must do something. Anything. But no buts. This is not the time to worry about appearances. We need to find ourselves a job as soon as possible. Oh, I see. Pochi did have a point there. I guess. Zemo, and so the difficult life of Gastarbeiter begins. Welcome, welcome. Oh, you're new here, boy. Hang in there, lots of waiters come and go round this place. Oh, I'll have 1 pumpkin and 2 plates of onions. Coming right up, ma'am. Ah, how would you like some lettuce to go with them? Freshly picked, real juicy. Good for your skin, too. They'll make you even more healthy and beautiful, I'm sure. Well. Would you like some? Oh, my, you're good at this. Tell you what, I'll take 2 plates. Hee, thank you very much. Hey, look over there. Glutton Masaki just lost the eating contest. Man, dude could have used that money, too. For real. The Masaki? Who the hell did that? Dunno, but apparently it's some random bloke's familiar. D-damn. I gotta see this. Let's go. Welcome. Pretty young for a shopkeeper, ain't ya? Sure you can lift the gear round here. The boss man handles everything himself, so, least you act like a decent adult. Come on, let's see what the place has got for sale. Do you have any exchange tickets, sir? Sure do. Here. Thank you. Hey, it's the dog that beat Masaki. Now she's gone and beat Glutton King Randolph in another contest. For real. The Randolph? Well, he's the weakest of the 4 Glutton Kings, though. No way she's gonna beat Cammy, Feudo, and Jumbo, I'm sure. See, I heard she's gonna be up against Jumbo next. You know, the strongest Glutton King. D-damn. I gotta see this. Let's go. Hey there, mister. The hell, kid? You're giving me the creeps, haven't things been so hectic lately? With the Devil King's army advancing and all that, you must have been so tired from your job, am I right? Aha, you from that shop. Must be hard work, coming out advertising your place. Hardly anyone's wanna do that. Our place is popular with big, strong guys like you know. Ha ha ha. I like the way you talk, kid. And you know how we've got some real nice girls with us. Come on, why not come wind down and have some fun? We've got some time slots open now, so you can even get yourself 2 at once. Well, can't say no to that. I'll stop by for a bit. Yeah. Yup, you can count on us. Hey, now that supernova familiar Shiro is up against the devourer Queen Lilia. For real. The Lilia? Can't she, like, eat twice as much as Jumbo? The hell is up with that Shiro dog? Looks like they're starting soon, so let's go see them. Hell yeah. Sorry, kid. I'll come again, so save a seat for me then. He, of course. We'll be waiting. Damn it, Pochi. You took away my customer. Now back at the inn, I swing the door open, voicing my complaint at Pochi as she drummed her inflated belly. I feel like I've been getting used to calling her different names in different places, too. I'm sure I won't be having a problem with that. Now that's what I call a meal. Besides, it's not like I could help it, sir. The spectator crowd just got bigger and bigger, so, how'd the match against Lilia go? I won it big time. If her win was so big time, she probably would have plenty of room left in her stomach, though. To be honest, sir, I never expected my reunion with a holy warrior candidate to be like, from how her belly looked, if I were to push it, she might get even more junk out than the volume of her whole body. And here I am, working literally non-stop. I didn't invent the Pachibitan D for this, damn it, but you did make good money with it, right? All the prizes you won added up to quite a lot, too. The total number between us must be around 30,000, in this era's value, anyway. We should be able to hire some bodyguards to bring us to a relatively peaceful region now. Oh, that's good to hear, sir. Now then, let us be off after I'm done with this last gig. You'll be out eating again. The ultimate enemy awaits. For some reason, Pochi's silhouette looked so imposing and huge, and so was her inflated belly, naturally. How in the world did she never get fat? And more importantly, who's that ultimate enemy she referred to? Pochi claimed that she had emerged victorious from a fierce battle, but never spoke of her opponent. Wonder who that was. Thanks to her additional winnings, we were able to save up more gold than we'd needed, so we recruited us better bodyguards, one rank higher than we'd initially planned to. We've got to be as safe as possible, after all. I had almost no attachment to Sodom, but I couldn't deny feeling that I'd learned so much this past week. And now, we were in front of Sodom's north gate, waiting for the bodyguards that the Adventurers Guild had arranged for us. They're pretty late, aren't they? Did we get scammed? I don't think the Adventurers Guild is one to run scams, sir, no matter what ancient era this is. Pochi reacted to something coming from the sky above. I looked up as well, and saw two people leaping over the wall, then over our heads, landing behind us. It's these two. Why them? Oh, God. Why them? The people who had appeared before us, were the same bodyguards we'd had a week ago. Chapter 139, To Hold a Spoon. Are you sure about this, sir? Yeah. With how we approach our fight now, I'm the only one dealing the finishing blows to the enemy monsters. That wouldn't get you any EXP, you see. I haven't done this before since your level was already maxed out, but now. I say we must. Whatever works to get your level catch up to mine, master. Pochi said, arrogantly snickering up her nose to emphasize her point. Normally she'd come off as sarcastic, but right now she was totally serious, and talked like that only to try and make things less awkward. It's been about half a day since we'd left Sodom together with Giorno and Lilia. On the way, we discovered a wyvern nest, and decided to take a break here since it provided good shelter and concealment from other enemies. Behind us was a cliff, while in front of us was all forest, save for a single narrow animal trail. Not many people used this path originally, but it seemed to have caught on with the adventurers as a shortcut to Brunnera. Although the individual wyverns here were C-ranked, their threat was comparable to rank S when they formed a group, so the Adventurers Guild naturally classified their hunt requests accordingly. I wasn't so reckless as to take a break in such a dangerous place, of course, but just now, the original inhabitants had been instantly wiped out by Giorno, using his special skill, the Brave Blade. Now that was what I would call a true slash. To my naked eyes, it was a single horizontal sweep, but when I'd asked him for an explanation later, it turned out to be 12 perfectly timed shockwaves in extremely quick succession. Sword wave techniques weren't anything out of the ordinary, but I'd never seen one so powerful and with a range so wide. Traditionally, by which I mean in the future, one would gather arcane energy on the blade, and then release it by swinging extremely quickly. The gathering step was absolutely necessary. However, I hadn't even seen Giorno gathering the energy, only him unleashing the waves at blinding speed. He'd been using that super powerful technique of his like it was nothing, making short work of everything in his way. He'd told me that he had used this skill to take down the Kiryu as well, so now it makes sense how he was able to keep up with that dragon, I suppose. If I had to identify the major difference between this era's melee combatants and my era's warriors, aside from power levels, then it would be how arcane energy manipulation was incorporated into the combat form. Warriors had low arcane energy stock, so they generally tried not to needlessly expend them throughout their fights. Essentially, fighters like Bruce expended their arcane energy to invoke their special abilities, while Giorno expended his during the abilities' actions, ticking down with every movement while they were active. The arcane energy manipulation methods in this time period were even more advanced than what mages in my time were capable of. It was quite understandable that the people here may have a far easier time in battle. The latter method required one to have a high amount of arcane energy, of course. One of the many perks of being in a time when limit breakthrough was readily available, I suppose. When Pochi had gone up 32 levels, I'd noticed how one's rate of HP and MP growth was greatly increased once one's level exceeded 100. The same could be observed from her physical performance, with remarkable improvements in attack power, speed, and reaction time. As she was now, Pochi could hold her own against an S-ranked monster. However, it came down to my magical attacks to sweep down hordes of monsters and finish off powerful ones. Seeking more flexibility, I took this occasion to discuss with Pochi, and in the end, decided to override the familiar contract. The process entailed adding a clause that equally distributed EXP gained in battle between us. With it in effect, both Pochi and I would gain EXP regardless of who dealt the finishing blow to a monster. When we departed from the dungeon 3 years ago, I'd suggested implementing this at one point, with the intention to take advantage of Pochi's level, but she'd naturally shot it down. Her reasoning was that it wouldn't be good for me to gain levels without actual combat experience. But that was no longer the case now. Both Pochi and I understood that, so when she asked if I was sure, I could say without a doubt that I was. And that's a wrap. Oh. That didn't take as long as I expected. Well, it was pretty easy. All I needed to do was write over the familiar contract's formula, then confirm it with your approval. Besides, I'm not enough of a fool to mess up this simple spell, you know. Hey, you fool over there. Yes, fool here. What is it, Lilia? Unless you lack common sense, you ought to remember not to release your arcane energy whenever not necessary. If there are monsters nearby, they may attack you, thinking you to be a weak power source. Do the monsters in this area have a higher sensitivity to arcane energy, or something? They all do. Did you not hear the nation's announcement when the Devil King entered his fetal stage? Oh, right, ha. Seeing how clueless I was, Lilia heaved a sigh out of exasperation. Strange, hers was clearly different from how Irene sighed at everything. Her eyes and face were practically warped in disgust. Quite a surprise how such a beautiful elf could emote this, prominently. Giorno, I say we call off this bodyguard duty and hurry to Brunnera by ourselves. Ha, don't you be silly, Lilia. We're doing this because you lost the eating contest, remember. We get them to our destination, we get paid. I thought you were happy to take this job, saying it's killing 2 birds with 1 stone, or did I remember wrong, Giorno grinned sarcastically, further fueling Lilia's frustration. The latter seemed to be reliving her bitter memories of when she had been bested in competition. So that was their reason. Giorno and Lilia's money had been used up, in good part forfeited to us, which we were now using to pay for their services. I see. Money sure makes the world go round, no matter how small one's world may be. Ooh, that was good. Let's write that down in the Principles of a Philosopher. One thing I failed to understand, though, was how Lilia was constantly glaring at me. Why? Shouldn't she be doing that to Pochi instead, what with her having beaten her at the contest? But it is true that having Poer with us slows down our progress. Hello. Could you at least wait for your client to leave your presence before badmouthing him, Giorno? Which brings me to my idea, Poer. If you aren't too tired, I'd like you to follow me. Aha. Well, I sure can. I left Pochi behind with Lilia and went for a walk with Giorno. Once we were at the cliff side, Giorno hopped down to a ledge below, while I slowly descended using whirlwind. For a moment there, I'd thought he was trying to commit suicide or something. How'd he even land safely from that height? Was it his level? Or did he just use the Fortify Resilience skill? While I pondered it over, Giorno stopped to point at a certain location at the bottom of the cliff. What I saw there was a sprawling forest. Its center was an open area, not unlike a plaza, in which grain-sized figures could be seen moving about. That's a pack, no, an army of master goblins. I turned to Giorno. He was grinning quite mischievously while holding up his index fingers. 1. Master goblins can't fly. 2. They have no means to climb up this cliff. 3. They don't have the means for their attacks to reach this high, and dash, now you stop right there 4. Your spells are more than capable of wiping the lot of them up. Come on, go get them, it'll be great. He sounded like he was having quite a lot of fun saying that. So, he was suggesting that I terminate the army of A-ranked master goblins with long-range magical attacks. Again, they were practically an army, their numbers most likely totaling over 200. I'd already noticed in earlier battles, but the fetal stage sure has strengthened the monsters quite a great deal. The Divine Messenger had said that all of them would have their powers elevated to a higher rank of strength, and now I understood what that entailed. Though it wasn't necessarily a letter rank's worth, they were indeed quite a bit more powerful. But that also meant an increase of EXP I could gain. If I could defeat all these master goblins, each of which now possesses strength close to rank S, Pochi and I would gain at least a few levels. That was probably what Giorno had in mind. Are you sure I should be doing this? Leveling myself up without getting combat experience, I mean. And Lilia just told me that I shouldn't be releasing my arcane energy too much. Poer, you're on a level such that you're not even supposed to be in battle at all. Think of it like your mother having to feed you when you were but a toddler. Now I'm feeling quite pathetic, having my power level analogized to a toddler's incapability. You have to hold up a spoon before you can eat by yourself. Nothing wrong to start with that, don't you think? I have mixed feelings about this, but he did make a valid point there. We'd probably part ways again once we reach Brunnera, so I suppose I should try to learn as much as I can until then. So what I must pay attention to is the number level I'll gain once I apply my points at Brunnera, I'll be keeping watch over the whole area, so if there's something too dangerous for you, I'll take care of it. We'll be getting paid quite handsomely, after all. Consider this as a little bonus from us. Thanks for the help. I reply to Giorno with a wry smile. He then urges me to do my thing. Considering how the monsters were grouped together, it might be optimal to use the Pochi pad breath, but that will also cause a great deal of collateral damage. It looks like I'll have to focus on precision after all. Here goes nothing, rise, all up. Having first used one of my favorite ability augmentation spells, and with Giorno watching over the process, I pointed my staff at the group of master goblins. Chapter 140, Yet Another Three-Way Struggle. Each time we stopped to rest on our way to Brunnera, I would go with Giorno to hunt monsters at any of the hotspots he would find. One occasion involved drowning an army of ogres. Another involved filling a lizardman's nest with water. And then another involved burning down a forest of mandragora trents from up on a cliff. I had started to feel sorry for the monsters lately, but the reality was that they were, without a doubt, a threat to humanity. No room for mercy on the battlefields, right? That was what Bruce had taught me. Which reminds me, is he doing well these days? Well, knowing him, I'm sure he's holding up just fine. I'd wanted to raise my level as often as I could, but none of the towns we had stopped by on the way had the limit breakthrough craft circle. I suppose that meant it was a commodity, in its own way, not to be kept in small towns or villages, and reserved for key locations. I know for sure that there would be one in Brunnera, but it'll be quite difficult to work at level 101 on the whole way there. Each time I was out sniping monsters, Pochi was left alone with Lilia, but they didn't seem to have engaged in much conversation. Perhaps the latter was jealous of Pochi's stomach capacity. It was clear that during mealtime, she would rush her meal down, as if she was always in some sort of competition. We were now at our last resting stop, just one more stretch and we're at Brunnera. Both Pochi and I, feeling a sense of déjà vu, looked up at the mountains to our sides. It's the Giant's Passage, which means, this Brunnera place, in the future, it was Bylania. They sounded familiar, but also not quite, probably due to the change of accents affecting it over the millennia. This could mean that the Baylad dragon, which would later be called Ballad dragon instead, didn't exist yet in this time period. Oh, finally in familiar territory, are we? Figured you would know, this is the only way through to Brunnera, after all. We could have gone along the thirsty desert's perimeter, too, Giorno. Did you forget that? No, can't exactly be done anymore. The desert town of Allen seems to have been destroyed recently, you see. Now that we can't make a stop there, we'll have to head straight for Brunnera in one long haul, so it's practically impossible if we don't have a larger party with us. Allen, gone. That's news to me. Remember the trade caravan from earlier? I just heard from them then. How did it happen, though? Had an apostle of despair in town, apparently. It started by getting rid of the people in power, and then called in monsters while the town was most vulnerable, leaving no time for any reaction, or so I've heard. In my time, no town existed in the vicinity of the thirsty desert. Seeing that the last of them were wiped out in this era, that was another mystery solved, I suppose. But then, the apostles of despair. I never knew that they were so intelligent. I now know that they can assume a human-like form, but with their capabilities, are they really a variation of SS-ranked monsters? Could they in fact be different from what the Divine Messenger has explained to me? I know that Gramps isn't the kind of individual to lie, but still. But how did the resident mind's eye wielder fail to notice anything? It's the least likely thing that could have happened. Lilia said, her tone harshened. Perhaps she was vexed by the failure of a fellow mind's eye wielder. That, or perhaps a sense of shame. We can't know that for sure. Considering the town's size, there was probably only one wielder there, so they might have been off duty from overwork, or it plainly didn't work on the apostle. What do you think, Poer? Well, could there even be such a thing? An apostle immune to the mind's eye, I mean. None that we currently know of. But our enemies aren't fools, we can be sure of that much. Another thing worth considering is that mind's eye wielders can't see through each other. So that might have been the case, too. Giorno saying all that so casually made him come off as quite insensitive. Is he really the hero? So, Giorno, did you mean to suggest that one among the elves may be in league with the Devil King's army? Lilia narrowed her eyes and reached for the handle of her sword. Ah, right. I'd heard that elves were quite a prideful bunch, come to think of it. Tus was even beyond that, being on his brand of egoistic. At any rate, I really felt the air practically being split apart just now. That's not what I meant to say. What did you mean, then? It's a possibility worth considering that they've lost control of their body. Currently, they're The three others turned to me instantaneously. Having suddenly remembered one key detail, I failed not to voice my realization. Is there something wrong, Poer? Well, I just thought that it might be doable with magic or magecraft. You see, among the Devil King's army, only the Devilkin could do that. Sure, it's definitely a possibility, but what did Lilia just? I don't think they would stoop down to playing such petty tricks. Wait a second. You mean the Devilkin is part of the Devil King's army? And of course, Pochi was the one who asked it before I could. Of course they are. The Devilkin is the leader of the monsters. Isn't that supposed to be common knowledge? Then, wouldn't that mean the Devil King is one of the Devilkin? She sure is a clueless one, Poer. Seems you'll need to get her understanding sorted out. Sorry about that, not that I could, because I didn't know anything either. Only Pochi herself knew that about me, though. Giorno heaved a sigh, and then started to explain the whole thing. Perhaps it was just me, but I believe I saw Lilia's expression cloud over for just a moment. First of all, it was said that the monsters are acting as an advance party of sorts for the Devilkin's efforts to destroy the world. The definition of destroy here is more similar to a turf war to them, but it doesn't change the fact that they would be completely eliminating humanity in the process. At the start of their invasion, they may have claimed that they would use us as livestock, but that hardly fits our definition of being alive. That's why we're all rising up and taking the fight to them. I do know that much, but I'm confused by the part where the Devil King isn't the king of the monsters, with the Devilkin having the command to themselves instead. Well, that stemmed from an incident from about a century ago. It was when the elves obtained magecraft after one among them performed the devil summoning ceremony. That practically meant they were borrowing a devil's power, you see. Since then, the elves have been discriminatingly referred to by many as the Dark Elves as a result. Oh, they were already called that by this point in time. I see. And that was why Lilia took it so personally. Giorno himself didn't use the derogatory term, though, nor did anyone back at the front lines of Sodom. That was perhaps due to all the recognition Lilia had obtained through her abilities and contributions. Now, do you know why the devil summoning ceremony was successful? Because they paid an appropriate price, at least I think that's how it works. Pochi, while leaning forward, answered. Right, that is the most important part. In this case, what the elves paid was the Devilkin's intervention in the human world, among other things. What does that mean, exactly? Pochi asked, then let out a suppressed, fear-laden chuckle. The Devilkin isn't supposed to exist at all in this world, yet they now have the ability to be so. That is what it means. What? But that's not something for just some of the elves to decide. The deal has no care for that whatsoever. The elves, as a price for magecraft, have brought into this world in the form of the invading Devilkin. And so, they were collectively called the Dark Elves, Considering the situation now, why would the Devilkin of our time want to defeat the soon-to-resurrect Devil King of our time? Aren't they supposed to be of the same kind? Well, I suppose since humans do wage wars among themselves, it would be reasonable for the Devilkin to do so as well. Yes, some sort of conflict among them, that should be the case. Then, what differentiates the Devilkin king from the rest of the Devilkin? I know the latter is normal, while the former resurrects himself in a cycle. Are there any other factors? Well, since I've never fought him, I don't know how powerful the Devil King is, but strength should be it. Also, it's worth keeping in mind that the Apostles comprises of both monster variants and the Devilkin, though I reckon we're capable of dealing with them, Lilia and I. He'd said something quite outrageous, this man. But I suppose it was good to know that these two might be able to defeat the Devilkin when they work together. Right, I'll take this opportunity to ask them more. By the way, since you two are extraordinarily strong, I've been wondering. Do you happen to know of others as powerful? Giorno thought it over for a moment before turning to Lilia, who had just found herself a boulder to sit on. What, you're asking me? I can think of the leading man of House Adams, and the first daughter of House Fulbright. Yes, they were quite impressive. Ah, right, they were. Oh, I think I might have heard both those household names before. The latter was Warren's family, and the former was, Whose family was it again? While I racked up my brain for an answer, Pochi whispered into my ear, hiding the front of her mouth with her paw, the Adams household. That's the family name of the bully trio's leader, isn't it? Aha, it was our beloved student council vice president, Hornell. Chapter 141, Almost There, Brunnera. Yes, Hornell is an aristocrat belonging to the Adams household. I'm sure I remembered right. Didn't rule out the possibility of them being different houses that happen to share the same name, though. Well, maybe we'll find out later down the line. The Fulbright household, on the other hand. Warren had told me that he'd like me to remember that name, despite it having already collapsed in my time. Could it be that Warren had known beforehand of my involvement within this era? Or had he been indirectly instructing me to come here? I really don't know what to make of this whole mess. I spun those unanswerable questions around in my head as we made our way through the Giant's Passage. But at one point along the way, something came up that demanded my utmost attention, making me unable to think about my issues any longer. A colossal figure cast its shadow all over us. Although this was still daytime, its sheer size rendered our surroundings as dark as night. Master, Pochi said, her voice shivering. Pochi, level 132, was scared out of her mind. It was that serious. Naturally, my body was reacting all on its own as well. Gah, my shoulders won't stop trembling. So, are you aware of the reason this place is called the Giant's Passage? As a matter of fact, I do. It no longer existed in the future, but it was still right here in the past. Its name was the Giant Murderer, that's right. Looks like we've come right at the end of its hibernation season. The Giant Murderer, a notorious monster of the ancient times. I had heard that it was SS ranked. Presumably, and that it moved in large groups of its own kind. It was at least 4 times, perhaps even 5 times, larger than Pochi's gigantified form. Measuring by eye suggested that it was approximately 30 meters tall. Its skin was purple and bumpy, and while I had no idea where it had gotten those from, it wore a loincloth, and wielded a dagger. Or one might assume from seeing it at a distance, but upon closer inspection, it was more of a thick chunk of metal. Damn it, giants are still gonna be giants. Of course they've got a blunt weapon in one form or another. Poer, slowly step back. Lilia, hold it off for 30 seconds. Humph, I'll just kill it right off. Lilia was already prepared for action. Licking the base of her sword, eyes red with blood, hair spiking up. Are we sure she's not a monster herself? Now, Poer, try not to die. Giorno ran off to the side, while Lilia stood her ground right in front of the Giant Murderer. Judging from the tone of Giorno's voice, he was actually serious, and cautious. Meaning, this thing was a formidable enemy, even for these two. In which case, I'll have to support them somehow. Shiro. Yes, sir. Pochi, now gigantified, held me in her mouth by the collar of my shirt, then swung her head in a wide arc, flinging me up into the sky. She then leaped after me, timing her descent so that I landed right on her back. A bit rough, but that was cool. Did you expect any different? By this time, Lilia was already clashing her swings with the Giant Murderers. Well, to be honest, I didn't quite see what was going on, but I could tell by the sounds of the impact that echoed through the vicinity. You see that, Shiro? Not at all. Rise, arise, all up, count 2 and remote control. How about now? Just a little. Pochi, despite her level being 132, and despite focusing her eyes the best she could, barely saw what was going on. That was how fast they were going at it. And of course, I couldn't see anything. Which means, I can't cast my support spells for Lilia like this. Remember to cast them before the fight starts next time. But what now? Oh, for the love of. I'll get you in there. Just make sure your spells don't hit the giant murderer instead. I've modified the formula, so it'll be fine. Alright, then. Here goes. Whoa. I thought my neck was gonna break there. I'd known for a fact that Pochi's physical capabilities had been enhanced by her level, but I'd never expected it to be this great. GWH, gah, that hurt. Don't stop so suddenly like that, damn it. Ha, ha, ha. What's wrong? I was so fast. Not you, too. Ugh, look, you still good to go. No need for you to worry, 101. You little shit. Pochi ran off again, landing behind Lilia, then followed her movements by concentrating on the blares caused by steel clashing with steel. In fact, Pochi's eyes were now so strained that they fit the description of bloodshot more than ever. Eventually, Pochi's body began to shiver, and then, before I knew it, she was leaping around with great dexterity. Perhaps it was one of her secret tricks, or she simply had accustomed herself to her new speed level. Her eyes were moving in all directions, keeping up with all the actions. Trusting that Pochi would do her part properly, I started to draw my circle. Over here. Pochi ran ahead in a straight line, timing her path with Lilia's as she appeared from our left. Lilia, seeming to understand what I meant to do, turned her back to me so that I could aim at it with my right hand, perfect timing and spacing. Good job, Shiro. Rise, all up. Dash. Lilia, after briefly glancing at us, proceeded to clash with the giant murderer once more. Ooh. Pochi, letting out a heroic battle cry, which I really felt through the vibration of her back, leaped to the side in Giorno's direction, reaching him in a single bound, so that I could support him. Nice one, Shiro. Giorno whistled and voiced his praise for Pochi. I grabbed his shoulder with my right hand and then strained my legs, holding Pochi under me as we circled around him, not unlike holding a pole, and then I applied the all-up spell that I had already drawn through my hand. Seems you've accustomed yourself quite well to battle, Poer. And that spell? It was pretty impressive. We can talk later. Lilia needs your help. Oh, no, she doesn't. With the spell's augmentation, she'll be able to win this by herself. But besides, Giorno turned to our right, prompting me to look in that direction. Giant murderers move in groups, in case you've forgotten, Giorno said, sounding perfectly calm, but then Pochi and I saw 5 giant murderers approaching side by side. The sight was pressuring beyond belief. At this point, I was feeling nothing but fear. It took Giorno's distracting whistles for me to realize how hard my teeth were chattering. Well, what a wonderful view. We might actually die from this, people. Are you insane? We should retreat, I say. That's right. Us fighting 5 of them at once is practically suicide. Not happening, you too. Since the giant murderers are out of their hibernation season now, they'll most likely go after Brunnera. If we don't finish them off here, humanity's integrity will, without a doubt, be compromised. At this time, the town itself doesn't have enough war potential to fight them off, either. Oh, Shiro, walk forward 3 steps. Now. Pochi, hearing Giorno, shook her head and then did as told. At the same time, I saw something sparking and crackling in the 2 o'clock direction. What's that? Huh? Wadash. The next instant, the land behind Pochi disintegrated, leaving behind only a scorching smell. I'd heard nothing when the destruction itself happened, nor even the sound of, whatever that was, streaking through the air. Pochi's eyes went blank. Wah, my ass. Calm down, Shiro. You only lost some hair on your tail. I can't do this, master. I'm out. No way I'll win against them. Ha 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 ha, still got a little burnt there, didn't you? And why is this so-called hero so carefree? Well then, it seems Lilia has taken one down. Come now, Poer, Shiro, we'll be taking on 4. You two take care of the giant murderer in the very front. Giorno pointed at the giant murderer in question. This one's defining characteristic was that it was one-eyed, unlike the rest. We can't do this, Pochi and I tried to say, but by then, despite pointing at Lilia and the giant murderers just a second ago, Giorno was already gone. We can't. He's gone. Lilia was holding off 2 to our left. Not that I could see her, but I could tell because of her brand of battle roar and profanity. Giorno was taking another 2 on our right. I could see him, even from this distance, because of how his lustrous hair fluttered in the wind. And the one-eyed giant in front of us, was ready to take us on. Its face was painted with an intimidating, unnerving grin. Oh my God! Chapter 142, Full Throttle. Go-ho-ho. The one-eyed giant, with its sight locked onto Asley and Pochi, raised an earth-shaking roar. The two, facing each other, with the former hugging one of the latter's legs, slid sideways away from the monster. Asley, covered behind the gigantified Pochi, fixed his misaligned glasses and whispered, Pochi, I require assistance. Anything will do. Although he just called Pochi by her real name, no one was there to hear it, as Giorno has now taken his part of the battle far away. Oh, Asley, I'm sure you'll pull through just fine, don't be ridiculous. But, well, that's right, sir. If we don't do something, we'll definitely die. Asley, suppressing his chaotic emotions, and then mobilizing all of the logic and intelligence he had, searched his brain for a solution to their predicament. So what should we do, master? Of course, the only option is run for our lives. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Pochi bolted off immediately as she finished saying so, prompting Asley to grab, and then pull her back, by the fur on her back. Damn you little dash. You were trying to leave me behind, weren't you? That's not the case at all. Maybe. Asley, grabbing onto Pochi's back as she ran off, rocked back and forth like a willow tree swaying in the wind. Pochi, going ahead at full speed, invoked Tempest and Light Body. Yeah right. Not at all, maybe, choose one. Gah. Damn you dash. Asley also exerted his power, invoking Fortify Strength and Fortify Resilience. Left hand gripping onto Pochi's back fur, he bulked up his whole left arm at once, and then pulled himself up to sit on Pochi's back. His face was all red by the end of it. Wait, master. You're facing the wrong way. Can't worry about that now. Just keep running. I mean, dodge, 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 dodge. Asley, facing the opposite way Pochi was heading in, shouted as he saw the giant murderer staring right at them with its mouth wide open. Dodge where? Left. No, I mean, right. Nope, up, up, up. Ah. Well, here goes. Rise, spring wind. Asley cast a spell under Pochi's feet, matching the time with the latter's leap. Achieving far more altitude than she had ever imagined herself capable of, Pochi screamed while in the air, her volume higher and higher the closer she was to landing. Asley cast the same spell before Pochi hit the ground, preventing her from hurting herself, but it didn't change the fact that she was physically and mentally overwhelmed by the shock of it all. While those two retreated, Lilia shouted out as she dealt with her two designated giant murderers, "Hey! Those two just ditched us. Ha ha ha, they sure did. Ugh, exactly what we needed, so what now, Giorno? Well, we'll just have to deal with this ourselves. Damn it. So much for being helpful. Giorno stole a glance at Lilia as she grumbled so, and then looked in the direction Asley and Pochi had gone in. Hey! Help me out here. Yes, ma'am. Giorno, wielding his sword in one hand, rushed to Lilia's side. He was holding something in his mouth. Pochi, out of breath from her free-falling experience, shouted as she pressed her hands on her chest where her heart was. Arg! That took 5 years right off my lifespan. Yeah, me too. Not like you'll ever run out of it. Same goes for you. Come on, don't stop now. Forward, forward. Pochi ran off once again despite her ragged voice and breathing, while Asley started drawing up a circle. The giant murderer now started giving chase, walking after them. An attack spell. You think it'll reach from this range, sir? I've got to at least try something. Rise, fire lance. Although it was an intermediate-level fire spell, Asley had chosen to shoot it with consideration of its effective range. The fire lance was particularly excellent at reaching faraway targets, and it also happened to be an easy spell to draw. Additionally, since Asley had improved its formula, its power was now comparable to unmodified advanced-level spells. He was using this spell to judge whether or not his attacks could reach the giant murderer, and also how effective his advanced levels would be against it. How was that? Did it hit? This is bad, Pochi. What is it, master? The spell just went out like it was nothing. Like, poof. I don't think even my large-scale spells will put a scratch on this thing. So why are you sounding so worry-free? Hurry and do something about it. You say that like I have any spell I can even use. What about the Pochi pad bomb that you used earlier? It's got my name on it. The bomb isn't gonna have enough power, and the Pochi pad breath covers way too much area. Giorno and Lilia will be caught in it, too. Aha. I know. You've got that. The super-duper awesome original spell. Pochi, out of breath from running non-stop, shouted just the right words. Asley gasped in realization. Oh, yeah. Gate Eater. That's right. A spark of inspiration jolted through both their heads, prompting them to crack broad grins on their faces. We're too far away. Pochi. Can you get within the range of 100 meters? I'd rather not, but I sure can. Rise, power barrier, count 2 and remote control. Asley immediately invoked a spell on both him and Pochi for some shock absorption. Pochi understood that, although it wasn't much, it was better than nothing. Seeing that the giant murderer was about to unleash another one of its breath attacks, Pochi made a U-turn, then leaped up in an arc. Asley, fully concentrating on his spell circles, has yet to fix the direction he was facing. He left his safety in Pochi's care. The roaring of 2 giant murderers, and also Lilia's, as well as the clashes on their weapons, were getting close and closer. Upon sensing Asley and Pochi's approach, Giorno chuckled. It was likely that he had known from the beginning that the two weren't simply running away. What the heck, now they're back. Calm down, Lilia. It's just how Poer fights, no need to be suspicious. Giorno spoke sarcastically in between each time he parried the enemy's metal chunk daggers. Well, I've never seen anyone fight by running away, before. Lilia pushed on with her attacks, lifting up and blowing away the giant murderers on the receiving end. The other giants, upon seeing Lilia's ominous grin, felt chills run down their spines. Your mouth is open so wide, it's almost to your ears, you know. Hell if I care. Lilia rested her great sword on her shoulder and charged ahead. Pochi appeared and ran up from behind as if chasing her. Come on, master. Tries. Behold. Gate Eater. Asley the mage, still faced the wrong way on Pochi's back, took aim as the latter jumped over the one-eyed giant murderer's shoulder, and then shot a jet-black sphere of magic at the back of its head. The giant murderers had instantly disappeared. Pochi, during her descent, unleashed a zenith breath attack onto the ground to help break her fall. The remaining 4 giants were distracted by their ally being so suddenly put out of commission. Judging that Asley was the one who had done it, they rushed at him all at once, thirsting for blood. The battle wasn't quite over just yet. Giorno and Lilia understood that well. Fortunately for them, the momentary distraction gave them the perfect opportunity to take down one of their targets each. While the monsters' heads started to roll down, Asley shouted again, "Enemy trap and gravity stop." The 2 remaining giants flinched under the weight felt on their shoulders, no, on their entire bodies. The pull still wasn't enough to bring the monsters to their knees, but for Giorno and Lilia, it provided enough opening to finish things up. Way to go, Poer. TCH, I can't stomach their attitude. With Giorno and Lilia's coordinated cross-shaped slashes cleaving the giant murderers from their shoulders down, the battle finally ended. The pair then descended, clinging to the giants' slowly collapsing bodies. Poer and Shiro, on the other hand, were on all fours, panting incessantly, their eyes and noses running water like a river. Ha, ha, who? Need to, catch breath, ga dash. Ha. Ha. Master. Give. Air. Can't. Breathe, ga. While the giant murderers' bodies fell to the ground, Giorno and Lilia looked on at the 2, the former with cynical humor, and the latter with a great degree of satisfaction. Chapter 143, Bleeding Foreheads, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 2nd day of the 5th month, 94th day of the War Demon calendar. The sun waned, shining on the land with a bitter orange beam of light. By the time it descended almost fully behind the far east wasteland's horizon, Gaston and Konoha finally met face to face with Tus. I had never expected him to be so impressive. A shock ran through his little body. The person he faced was much taller than he was, so much so that he had to look up at all times. Konoha, who now looked like a single bean in the whole picture, groaned in astonishment. "Master, are you sure he's not a monster?" Tus knit his brows as he looked down. First at Gaston, then at Konoha, the latter shuddered and then froze over. He then, without a shred of effort to hide how sick and tired he was, heaved a deep sigh at them. Gaston took a step forward, Asley's letter of recommendation in hand. Tus, glaring at the paper in Gaston's hand, raised an eyebrow upon seeing the characteristic handwriting on it. It seemed that he could tell who had written the letter based on that alone. Master Tus, the high-order muscle, philosopher of the Far East. Today I come with a favor to ask of Dash, get lost. Tus, after having declared so, walked past Gaston's side. Konoha's expression was petrified, taken aback by how abrupt the exchange had been. Then, red with rage upon putting all the events in order, Konoha turned around on Gaston's shoulder and shouted at Tus, "You! My master has trudged all the way here, and you will not disrespect him." "Stop, Konoha." "But NGH dash." Konoha continued to admonish Tus despite the master's command. Gaston eventually stopped the former from speaking any more with his wrinkled fingers. "Remember, we have come here for a favor, from a man who is simply minding his business out here. We are the ones disrespecting him, if anything." Konoha, mouth unblocked once Tus' silhouette was completely out of sight, looked up at Gaston. Gaston, despite the dust clouds obscuring his vision, continued to gaze at Tus' enormous footprints. Before long, the sand piled up, erasing those footprints away. Sensing another gust, the two closed their eyes, waited for it to pass, and then looked forward once again. "I don't intend to abandon this after just one rejection, of course. Shall we head after him, master?" "No, we'll wait another day." Gaston silently pressed his lips together and sat down on a small boulder nearby. All he did was wait for time to pass, the sun set, and then eventually rose again. Tus did not return to this exact location, but that didn't mean Gaston couldn't track his arcane energy down. Over the next 3 days, Gaston stood up and repeated the routine each time the biological clock Magecraft informed him that it was 10 o'clock. This last time, after following the signs of concentrated arcane energy, he found Tous leaning against a rock, arms folded. Gaston presented Asley's letter of recommendation to him. "I have been referred to you by Asley. Please, at least hear what we have to say. Leave me alone. You're a pain in the ass." Konoha was visibly angry, what with its brows twitching, but was restrained by Gaston. Gaston groaned as he sat down, and then folded the letter up. Konoha scampered up to the top of his staff and then sat on it, arms crossed. "This isn't working out, Master. I say we give up before more time is wasted." "Humph, surely you know how persistent I can be. If anything, I do know that you have calmed down quite a bit." All thanks to the Asley boy, though Gaston held his tongue, the edges of his mouth were raised slightly. No denial, how unusual. "I see, so that's how big the boy's influence had been on me." 8 o'clock in the evening of the same day, Gaston paid another visit to Tous. Tous, beyond exasperated by now, reached into his afro hair and scratched his scalp, sounding quite a loud crunch. "Ha, you don't know when to quit, old man. You sure you got time to hang round? You'd do more good goin' home and talkin' care of the lil ones or somethin'. Now he's calling our magic guardians kids. It's fine, Konoha. Even I am a child compared to Master Tous here." He was simply stating facts. Konoha was visibly confused, while Tous clicked his tongue out of annoyance. "Gah, you little shit, apologies, I meant not to disrespect." "Humph, just quit these useless talks, and leave." Tous, denying them for the 3rd time, instantly disappeared into the darkness, startling Konoha. "He's even faster than you, Master. That isn't even a tenth of his capabilities, I say." "I see. So that is why you are being so persistent, then," and so yet another morning came, marking the 4th day. Gaston went to Tous at 10 in the morning and 8 in the afternoon, and was once again refused both times. Each time Tous refused to even listen to the request, Konoha threw a tantrum, while Gaston remained silent. Refused the next day, refused the day after, Gaston's brows were eventually caked with adhering dust. "We've been out here for so long that my once white body has turned all brown, Master. I think I might look very much like a junk rat now. Would you prefer to stay inside?" Gaston hinted at drawing up the house spell circle, but Konoha denied the gesture. "No, I wouldn't dare, I've stayed out for this long. You don't order me to follow you often, Master, so I intend to see this through to the end." "All right, then. Come, it's time." 7th day of the 5th month, 10 o'clock in the morning. Gaston stood up. As if accustomed to the routine, Konoha climbed onto Gaston's shoulder. The latter, after seeing for sure that his familiar was in place, tracked down Tous' arcane energy. Tous, fully expecting Gaston to turn up again at this point, only started back at the ladder coldly. "You never learn, old man." Tous tilted his head, perplexed by Gaston's silence. Then something unbelievable, even for him, happened right before his eyes. Konoha was rendered speechless and agape with awe, while Tous' stare grew sharper. Gaston was down on his knees, his hands rested on his thighs. Master, first in order of the 6 archmages, Gaston the great mage of flame. Surely your honor is not this cheap. I say he's right, Master. Please, stand up. Gaston moved his hands down. He felt the characteristic touch of gravel in his whole palms. Konoha turned away, denying to witness such an act. I beg of you. Please listen to what we have to say. Now his head was down. His forehead was right on the ground. Konoha shivered upon hearing those words. Tous continued to fix his eyes on Gaston. The strange span of time lingered, with the latter persisting on his request without even the slightest of movements. Konoha, unable to bear watching its master lowering his head, turned to glare at Tous as he still refused to utter a word. However, Tous paid no mind to everything else, he looked at Gaston, and Gaston only. Konoha closed its eyes, mustering up all its resolve before opening up again, then hopped down from Gaston and kneeled down at his side. "Ngh. Please, Master Tous. Listen to my master's wishes. I may be a worthless little critter, but I beg of you." Konoha was finally exhausted of patience, so it did the same as its master had done, for the sake of its master. The Lord's wish, the retainer's wish, they were all and the same. Genuinely holding on to that belief, Konoha begged. Lowering its head to the ground, again and again, the brown fur of its forehead slowly turned a light shade of red. Gaston and Konoha's wish, it was unknown whether it actually affected anything within Tous. The truth was, however, it did change the tone of Tous' sigh. "Gah, look, just stand up. Just stand. Look, even I'd feel bad having an old man and a mouse kneel in front of me. Get up, damn it." The two did as told, so as to not disturb Tous any further than necessary. Once Tous pointed at their foreheads, they realized how they were bleeding, and that the former was gathering arcane energy at his fingertips. Suffice to say, he was getting ready to draw a spell circle. "I'ma do this only once. Watch closely." Although Gaston did not know what Tous meant to do, at least he knew that he couldn't afford to miss this particular drawing process. High cure. Dash. A delicate stroke in the air of Tous' fingertips healed the wound on Gaston's forehead in an instant. Gaston saw nothing to it. He only knew what Tous had done through the utterance of the magic spell's name. An advanced level recovery spell, drawn at blinding speed. It was, in the literal sense, undetectable by the naked eye. The two were at a loss of words. 1 week, old man. Learn to do this in 1 week, and I'll listen to your story. Finally, development. But as certain as that was, Konoha didn't think Gaston would manage it. After all, the task of self-improvement Tous had issued was simply so alien of a concept. Konoha's master, on the other hand, had a different attitude. He subtly loosened his lips, convinced that this tiny progress was in fact a major spurt forward. "A favor for a favor, then. I cannot face Asley until I repay this gesture." "Very well." Gaston of the 6 Archmages accepts the challenge. The little old man tightly clenched his little fists. For the first time in forever, his heart was racing with appreciation and anticipation. Konoha took a good look at its master's rear silhouette, at all the willpower and ambition piled up on his back. Chapter 144, half a month since then, 6 o'clock in the morning, 11th day of the 5th month, 94th year of the War Demon calendar. "Asley's still not back," Lala said while she was crouching down, plucking weeds that had grown around her crops. "Still not back, indeed. Since we could not connect to him with the telepathic call, it would be better to assume that he is either far away, or that he was prevented from using it for some unknown reason." With Itsuki speaking up in agreement with Lala, Czar proceeded to explain to them while using his ends to pluck out weeds on the fields. "Right, besides, it hasn't even been that long yet. Way too soon to start worrying, don't you think? But Betty, what about Lena? You think she'll be fine?" "Oh, brother, you know how strong she is. Mentally and physically. She even beat EGD in a martial arts match yesterday." "Gay, for real? That's impressive." Bruce was agape with surprise, while Blazer voiced his admiration. It was quite unexpected for a warrior such as EGD to be bested at martial arts by a mage like Lena. Although Lala wasn't all that familiar with EGD, she still voiced her surprise alongside everyone. "Well, this is Lena we're talking about. Fighting her probably threw off EGD's concentration." "Ah, hey, don't slack off, brother." "Ah, sorry. And that's my part done. It's about time for breakfast, so I'll go help Natsu and Haruhana get things ready. Go wake up everyone else when you're done here, all right? Betty stood up, gave her order, and then went back into the house. Blazer, Itsuki, and Zar finished their weeding quota at around the same time. They moved on to prepare today's work. Man, I'm just not good at this kind of thing, Bruce, over there. Gotcha. There, too. Yeah, wait, Lala, isn't it about time you go call Ryan and the others? You're the one who's supposed to go today. Lala's utterly disinterested response exuded enough power to prompt a deep sigh from Bruce, now the agency's figurative rickshaw boy. So, he still hasn't returned, the same day, 7 o'clock in the morning. Student council advisor Irene grumbled to current president Lena, who had been up all night clearing up the council's works. He hasn't, indeed. I'd thought he'd leave the communication channel open this time, but there hasn't been anything for the past half-month. It's quite concerning, I must say. You think so, Professor? Upon hearing such an unexpected remark, Irene stopped fiddling with the brush that she had held with her lips. She had never expected Lena to have any different opinion from hers on this matter. Ha! Now that's a surprise. Did I say something strange? Not necessarily. It was just unexpected. Irene groaned subtly up her nose, leaned back on her chair, and then fiddled with the brush in her lips once again. Professor Irene. You've warned me not to make a habit of that a while ago. Oh. Now Irene remembered the warning in question that she had given to Lena in the first month of this year. She took the brush away from her mouth. That reminds me, it's barely been 3 months ever since he was back in town, hasn't it? During that, he went away for a while for the rank-up evaluation, too. But, well, a lot of things happened over these past months. I've gotten to learn quite a lot, too. Irene giggled bitterly at the look on Lena's face as the latter pumped up her fists in an attempt to emphasize how much she'd grown. Heh, come back and brag after doing something about those bags under your eyes. Sorry. Seeing how Lena was covering her eyes out of embarrassment, Irene giggled again. At the same time, the latter heard footsteps approaching from a distance. This weight, oscillation, and pace, could it be Hornell? I think so, yes, their prediction was correct. Hornell, out of breath, swung the door open and rushed his way in. Once he was done catching his breath and readjusting his glasses, Hornell proceeded to say, sorry for running late, Lena. Isn't there a little bit more time until your shift? Oh my, greeting Lena before a member of the faculty now, are we? Hornell's face cramped up slightly upon being hit with a sarcastic tease. He took it seriously, at least seriously enough to try and clean his act by bowing his head down. Good morning, Professor Irene. Good morning. Irene smiled and replied to him, perhaps satisfied to see a student of hers panic so comically. Hornell, still not raising his head, glanced up slightly and asked, Excuse me. Irene inclined her head, wondering what question he might have. Lena did so as well. Why is Lena covering her eyes? It's a secret. At this time, Hornell had already raised his head up, and was now tilting his head in perplexion toward Irene's suspicious grin. Eventually, Lena's blushing faded, though the sense of awkwardness remained. Hornell took this chance to sit down in his usual seat. So, getting to work, we were looking to add one of this year's freshmen to our ranks, yes? How has the investigation been going? Well, we did manage to compile a list of candidates here, but couldn't narrow it down further. How come? They may not be up to snuff, yet, but shouldn't there be at least some talent in there? Can't we just choose someone well-rounded from the list? Hornell asked while looking over the set of documents. Before Lena could answer him, Irene explained, sounding quite sour, See, from what I've seen of the white faction, they're all too polarizing. There's this boy, Mash, who's pretty mediocre but quite ambitious and well-liked by pretty much everyone. Timmy is an immensely popular girl, too, but her capabilities are bottom of the barrel. And then there's, Irene abruptly stopped, but Hornell understood what she had meant to say. Tifa, yes. Hornell being the student council's vice president, there was no way for him to be unaware of this matter. Tifa, another one of Asley's pupils, had enrolled in the university, and had subsequently been crowned the top student of her year. Numerous rumors of her had made the rounds after the school year had started, and he had heard from Lena herself that they had studied together under Asley. And above all else, Irene would always complain each time she held a practical skill testing session, that she was one of the worst things ever to deal with. She's the best by far, if we consider only her skills. Surprised me in every way, if I am to be honest. But her mindset is a major issue. Sure reminds me of a certain someone. Oh, no, Sir Asley never not him. He was problematic in his own unique way. Irene said, in a semi-interrupting manner. Just consider what he has done: entered false registration credentials, manipulated the contract, caused conflicts within the class, did business with the colorful food district, sold his rights of the teleportation spell to me. Seriously, Lena, you are one of the few people he's had a non-problematic human relationship with. Lena and Hornell's faces cramped up in reaction to Irene's rough groaning. Wait, doesn't this mean all those businesses with Sir Asley? Could it be that Professor Irene was involved in most of them? Irene, noticing the change in their expressions, threw a glance at them, prompting the two to avert their lines of sight, with Hornell going back to his documents. Then, after a period of awkward silence, Hornell looked up and proceeded to say, "I'll vouch for Tifa's inclusion, ma'am. Her capabilities do exceed her character and popularity, all things considered. Without power, the student council is useless anyway. But then, why not choose MASH instead? If we look at things in the long term, he has a good chance of thriving in student council work. His progress seems fairly consistent, and considering our open positions, I say he'll be a good fit as the general affairs manager." What do you say, Lena? You haven't presented any opinion yet. Well, I think I might try negotiating things with Henry. Ever since Hornell had been reassigned as the council's vice president, Henry had replaced him as the public morals enforcer. Irene quickly realized that the negotiation had to do with that position. Are you considering reassigning Henry as the general affairs manager, and have Tifa be the public morals enforcer in her stead? Is that out of the question? Not quite, more like exceedingly difficult. The position of public morals enforcer is critical to the council's integrity, not something you ought to entrust to a first-semester freshman, not to mention Tifa, of all people. Even if all three of us approve, the rest of the council members will most likely not. Lena crossed her arms and pondered it over. It seemed that the aforementioned plan was the best one Lena had in her head. She was having a hard time accepting Irene's opposing opinion. Irene herself, understanding that, grunted out of slight amusement and explained, "Now, listen. The final opinion still falls upon you two. Since the current president and vice president both belong to the black faction, it's inevitable that Tifa's name is brought up, backed by her capabilities as a member of the white. Henry is likely to understand what Lena wants, too, so you two might as well go for the desired outcome as much as you can." Lena's face brightened up with joy, her hands clasped together. "Thank you very much." She produced a hearty, dazzling smile. Seeing that, Hornell felt his face flare up. Irene, considering the matter settled for the time being, stood up from her seat and looked at Lena again. "All right, then. I can dismiss you from today's morning classes, so that you can get some rest. I'll inform your class's lecturer myself." "Ah, yes, ma'am." Lena's voice echoed through the morning air of the office. Taking Irene up on her offer, she immediately stood up. The two then left the room, but not before Irene told Hornell one last thing. "Hornell, we're counting on you to take care of the rest." "Yes, ma'am." Their footsteps faded into the distance. The student council office was now shrouded in silence. Only the blue-haired boy remained here. He pictured the face of the girl that had been in the president's seat just moments ago. Charmed. He heaved a sigh of relief, as if expelling the tension in his body along with that one word, the secret word he couldn't afford to let anyone hear. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.